to the chair, are they not? On another issue, returning to the question of the benefits of incumbency, let me give you a hypothetical situation, and that is, let us say if before the Parliament came together, instead of the independents supporting Ms. Gillard, they'd supported Tony Abbott. Mm-hmm. Let's say they'd entered into an agreement, an oral agreement with Tony Abbott, and they'd announced, as they did, they announced, instead of what they did, they announced that they supported Tony Abbott. Assume then that Ms. Gillard said, I'm not going to resign, I want to test this on the floor of the Parliament. I don't really think that they really mean this. What should the Governor-General have done had that happened?
Had that happened, at least according to convention, the incumbent Prime Minister still has a right to face Parliament and have confidence decided on the floor. And there are a number of examples of that happening. So, for example, it happened to Don Dunstan when he was Premier in South Australia in 1968. There was a hung parliament, there was one independent who held the balance of power, the independent went with the other side. Dunstan said, regardless, I want to face Parliament, have confidence decided on the floor. He did so, he lost, he resigned, the other side formed government. Same thing happened in Tasmania in 1989. You might remember Robin Gray was the Liberal Premier. The Greens and the ALP formed the Accord, and it was a formal written document and all the rest of it. And nonetheless, Robin Gray advised the Tasmanian Premier that he wanted to stay and face the Parliament. He did, he lost, he resigned. Again, similar thing occurred in South Australia in 2002. So in all those circumstances, even if you've got, an absolute guarantee, signed, sealed and delivered, that the other side have power, then they have the right, the Prime Minister, who's the incumbent, has the right to face the Parliament. Now the critical thing, of course, is not to do what happened in Trinidad and Tobago and draw it all out until the very last possible moment for Parliament to resume. Fortunately, our Constitution doesn't allow that. So the Constitution says that Parliament has to be summoned and resumed within 30 days of the return of the writs. And the date for the return of the writs, is of the election writs, is set out in the initial writs when they're issued, and it's, I think in this case it was 27th of October, I think is the outside date. So once they've worked out all the seats and they've finished all the counting and they return the writs, then you've got 30 days and Parliament has to resume. So you don't have that drawn out affair that they did in Trinidad and Tobago.
Which demonstrates once again how wise the founders of our Constitution were. They seem to be well aware of many of these things.
Oh, they had a bit of practice because, yes, of course, they've been running, state parliaments, colonial parliaments for a long time before they, the colonial history of Australia, which most people know nothing about, was in fact the formative years of Australia where we sorted out all these sorts of problems. We had crises about supply and minority governments and all those sorts of things. We didn't have a political party system. And so we went through all those sorts of experiences, and they're built into the Constitution at the federal level because it was very experienced politicians who wrote that Constitution and they knew about these sorts of problems.
I think we were very fortunate, as were the Americans at Philadelphia. You had a group of quite exceptional people. Considering the size of this country at the time, it's quite extraordinary. Could I come to another